Wisconsin looks like a quiet, predictable Midwestern state. This is a place with coastlines longer than some ocean states, thousands of lakes packed into tight spaces, and entire regions that completely escaped the forces that shaped the rest of the Midwest. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Time to explore Wisconsin. 50. Wisconsin is larger than it has any right to be. Wisconsin covers over 65,000 square miles when land and water are combined. That already puts it ahead of countries like Ireland. But here's what makes it feel unreal. If Wisconsin were a country, it would rank among the top 25 largest in Europe, and nearly 20% of that area is water, not coastline, but inland, which means a huge portion of the state isn't even solid ground. And if you drove from one end to the other, you'd travel nearly 300 miles, long enough to cross entire nations. A Midwestern state, with the scale of something much bigger. 49. Wisconsin has ocean-like coastlines without an ocean. Wisconsin has over 1,000 miles of shoreline across Lake Michigan and Lake Superior, more than some states that actually touch the ocean. But here's where it gets unreal. Lake Superior alone can produce waves over 20 feet high, comparable to ocean storms. And because it's freshwater, it behaves differently. Storms can build faster and feel more sudden. Even more surprising, Lake Superior holds enough water to cover North and South America in a foot of water, which means Wisconsin borders something that isn't just a lake. It's one of the largest visible freshwater systems on Earth. 48. One small area is basically a ship graveyard. Door County looks peaceful, quiet shoreline, scenic views. But beneath the surface, it's one of the most dangerous areas in the Great Lakes. Hundreds of ships have gone down here over time, some still sitting underwater today. But here's what makes it even more unsettling. In certain conditions, the water can be clear enough to see wreckage below. Entire ships, frozen in place, just beneath the surface. And the reason? Hidden reefs, sudden depth changes, unpredictable weather. So many wrecks, in fact, and that parts of this region are sometimes referred to as the shipwreck coast of the Great Lakes. A calm surface, covering a history most people never see. 47. Wisconsin hides an entire chain of islands. Most people don't associate Wisconsin with islands, but it has over 20 islands scattered across Lake Superior, the Apostle Islands. From above, they look random, like pieces of land dropped into the water. But here's what makes them truly unexpected. Some of these islands contain sea caves that can be explored by kayak or walked through when frozen solid in winter. And during extreme winters, the lake ice becomes so thick that people can walk miles out onto Lake Superior to reach them. A freshwater lake, behaving like a frozen ocean. 46. One region was never touched by glaciers. Most of the Midwest was flattened by massive glaciers, but one part of Wisconsin was completely missed, the driftless area, which means instead of flat land, you get steep valleys, sharp ridges, and deep cuts. But here's the shocking part. This region contains some of the oldest exposed land in the entire Midwest because it was never scraped clean by ice, and the streams here flow so fast and steep. They resemble water systems found in mountainous regions, not the Midwest. It's like a piece of another landscape, left behind while everything else was erased. This adventure keeps getting more interesting. Please like and subscribe. Let's see what's next. 45. Wisconsin is filled with lakes, far more than expected. Wisconsin has over 15,000 lakes, more than most people realize. But here's what makes that number even more surprising. If you include smaller bodies of water, some estimates suggest there are over 30,000 plus water features across the state. In some northern areas, lakes are so dense, you can't travel more than a few minutes without seeing one. And during winter, many of them freeze solid enough to support cars, fishing villages, and entire temporary communities on the ice. Water doesn't just surround the state, it takes over it. 44. A single river almost splits the entire state. The Wisconsin River stretches over 400 miles, cutting through the state from north to south. It doesn't just pass through, it almost divides Wisconsin in half. But here's what most people don't realize. This river helped shape some of the most dramatic terrain in the state, including the Wisconsin Dells. And in certain sections, it carved through rock so deeply that it created towering sandstone cliffs and narrow canyon-like passages. A Midwestern river, forming landscapes that look closer to something out west. And historically, this river was so important that it became a major transportation route long before modern roads existed. 43. One lake is bigger than entire cities. Lake Winnebago covers over 215 square miles. That's larger than many major U.S. cities. But here's the shocking part. Despite its size, it's extremely shallow, which means strong winds can push water around so aggressively that it creates sudden, dangerous wave conditions across the entire lake. And in winter, it transforms completely. Thousands of people gather on its frozen surface for sturgeon spearing, a tradition so unique it's tightly regulated and monitored. At times, the ice becomes strong enough to support entire rows of fishing shacks stretching for miles. A massive lake, turning into a temporary frozen city. 42. One region packs lakes closer than expected. In central Wisconsin, there's a region where lakes don't just appear, they cluster tightly together. The Chino Lakes area contains 20-plus interconnected lakes within a small radius. But here's what makes it even more unusual. You can travel across multiple lakes without ever leaving the water, moving through natural channels and wetlands. And in some areas, the water is so clear, you can see straight down several feet, even in deeper sections. From above, it doesn't look like separate lakes. It looks like a fractured water system, broken into pieces, almost like the land couldn't decide whether to stay solid or become water. 41. The highest point isn't impressive until you realize where you are. Wisconsin's highest point, Timms Hill, sits at just over 1,250 feet. Not exactly towering, but here's what changes everything. The surrounding land rises with it, which means you're not standing above a flat state. You're standing inside a system of rolling elevation that stretches for miles. And on clear days, you can see huge uninterrupted sections of forest, almost like waves frozen in place. But here's the surprising part. Because Wisconsin has no major mountain ranges, this low elevation still gives you one of the widest natural sightlines in the entire Midwest. It's not about height, it's about how much there is to see. 40. Half the state feels like a completely different world. Nearly half of Wisconsin is covered in forest, dense northern woodland that stretches across massive areas. But here's what most people don't expect. Some of these forest regions are so large and uninterrupted, they create conditions similar to remote wilderness zones despite being in the Midwest. Small towns appear and then disappear back into trees. And as you move north, temperatures drop noticeably. In fact, parts of northern Wisconsin can be 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the southern regions at the same time. It's like crossing into a different climate without ever leaving the state. 39. The waterways stretch farther than expected. Wisconsin has over 2,600 miles of rivers and streams, more than some states that are physically larger. But here's the shocking part. If you combined all those waterways and stretched them out, they would reach nearly halfway around the Earth. And because of that density, water is almost always nearby, which means nearly every region has access to canoeing routes, fishing zones, flowing water systems. And this constant movement of water shapes everything: soil, ecosystems, even how land erodes over time. Water isn't just present here, it's everywhere. 38. A massive river forms a border that never stays still. Wisconsin's entire western edge is shaped by the Mississippi River. But this isn't a clean, straight boundary. It moves. The river splits into channels, creates islands, forms backwaters and flood zones. But here's what most people don't realize. The Mississippi has shifted its course over time, meaning parts of the border have actually changed position. And in some areas, the river spreads out so wide, it feels more like a flooded landscape than a single river. Add in the towering bluffs rising hundreds of feet above it, and you get a border that looks more like a natural fortress than a line on a map. 37. Water is constantly rising from below. Across Wisconsin, water doesn't just sit on the surface, it emerges from underground. Spring-fed creeks flow year-round, powered by groundwater pushing up through rock layers. But here's the shocking part. Some of these springs maintain nearly constant temperatures all year, even in freezing conditions. Which means in winter, you can find flowing, unfrozen water surrounded by ice and snow. It creates ecosystems that shouldn't exist in that climate. Cold water habitats that stay stable no matter the season. It's like the ground itself is quietly feeding the surface, non-stop. 36. Two completely different ecosystems collide here. Wisconsin sits at a natural boundary between ecosystems. In the south, prairie and open savanna. In the north, dense cold climate forests. But here's what makes this strange. This transition doesn't happen slowly. In some areas, it happens within just a few miles. And that means you can go from open grassland to thick forest in a single drive. Even the wildlife changes. Even the soil changes. It's not gradual. It's abrupt, like crossing an invisible environmental line that splits the state in two. 35. Some rock formations look almost unnatural. In parts of Wisconsin, the landscape doesn't just look shaped, it looks carved. Sandstone cliffs rise straight up. Narrow passageways cut deep into the earth. Rock formations stand like pillars, isolated and exposed. But here's what makes it more unsettling. These formations were created slowly, by water. Over thousands, sometimes millions of years. Relentless pressure, constant erosion, carving deeper and deeper. And in places like the Wisconsin Dells, the river has cut so precisely through the rock, it forms tight corridors that feel almost engineered. Walls closing in, water moving silently through them. It doesn't feel open. It feels confined, like the land was hollowed out from the inside. 34. Entire regions were flattened by something massive. Some parts of Wisconsin feel almost too smooth, too even, too controlled. That's because they were flattened by glaciers. Massive sheets of ice that once covered the entire region. But here's the darker reality. These glaciers were powerful enough to grind down hills, crush rock, and completely erase previous landscapes. Anything that existed before them was wiped out. What's left behind are wide open plains, calm on the surface. But beneath that calm is evidence of something that reshaped the land entirely. A force that moved slowly, but destroyed everything in its path. And then disappeared. 33. One region looks like the ground collapsed in on itself. Kettle Moraine doesn't look stable. It looks broken. Ridges twist unpredictably. Hills rise and fall without pattern, and deep pits, some sudden, some gradual, drop into the earth. But those pits weren't always there. They formed when massive chunks of glacier ice were buried, then slowly melted, leaving empty space beneath the ground. And when the surface collapsed, it created depressions that still exist today. Some filled with water, others left as silent drops in the terrain. From above, it looks chaotic, like the ground gave way in dozens, sometimes hundreds of places. Not shaped smoothly, but disrupted. 32. Some land isn't fully solid. In parts of Wisconsin, the ground isn't as stable as it looks. Wetlands stretch across millions of acres. But they aren't just water, and they aren't fully land. There's something in between. Layers of soil, water, and decaying plant materials stacked together. Soft, saturated, unpredictable. But here's what makes it more unsettling. Step in the wrong place, and the ground can shift beneath you. Sink slightly, move unexpectedly, because underneath it's constantly changing. These wetlands don't just exist quietly, they absorb massive amounts of water, hold it, and release it slowly. Without them, flooding would be far more severe. So, while they look calm, they're actively controlling how water moves across the entire state. A hidden system, unstable on the surface, but essential underneath. 31. One coastline feels colder than it should. Lake Superior doesn't behave like a normal lake. It holds on to cold, even when everything around it starts to warm. But here's the unsettling part. Even in summer, the water can be cold enough to trigger shock responses in the human body within minutes. Not discomfort. Shock, because the lake is deep, extremely deep. And that cold stays trapped below the surface, but it doesn't stay contained. It spreads into the air, creating pockets of cold wind, sudden temperature drops, and an atmosphere that feels heavier. And over time, that cold does something else. It slowly breaks apart the shoreline, water seeps into cracks, freezes, expands, and forces rock to split, again and again and again, until entire sections begin to hollow out, not quickly, but relentlessly. 30. The entire state is tilted and everything follows it. You don't see it, you don't feel it, but Wisconsin isn't level. It tilts, higher in the north and west, lower in the south and east, and that slight shift controls everything. Water flows with it, soil settles with it, drainage patterns depend on it. But here's what makes it more intense. Over long distances, that subtle tilt determines where water collects and where it doesn't, which means entire ecosystems form or disappear because of a slope you can't even notice. It's quiet, invisible, but it's always working, guiding how the entire landscape behaves without ever being seen. 29. The ground changes faster than you expect. In Wisconsin, the ground isn't consistent. It shifts. Sandy soil in one area, dense clay just miles away, soft organic peat in another. But here's the shocking part. Some regions contain peat layers that can be several feet thick, built from thousands of years of compressed plant material. And when saturated, that ground can act almost like a sponge, absorbing water, then becoming unstable under pressure. In certain conditions, heavy structures can actually sink or shift over time if the ground isn't properly stabilized. And all of this variation exists within short distances. A landscape that looks solid, but doesn't always behave that way. 28. A hidden water system is always moving beneath you. Most of Wisconsin's water isn't visible. It's underground. Aquifers stretch beneath the state, constantly storing and moving water through layers of rock. But here's what makes it more surprising. Some of these underground systems supply millions of gallons of water per day to cities and communities. And in certain areas, groundwater pressure is strong enough to create artesian wells, where water rises to the surface on its own, without pumps. Even more surprising, in some places, contamination or overuse can travel through these systems slowly but persistently, meaning what happens underground in one area can affect water miles away. A hidden system, quietly connecting everything beneath the surface. 27. The climate changes without warning. Wisconsin doesn't behave like a single climate. It fractures, cooler in the north, moderate in the center. Shifted again near Lake Michigan. But here's the shocking part. Temperature differences of 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit can occur within relatively short distances, especially between inland areas and lake-influenced regions. And during certain conditions, the Great Lakes can trigger lake effect weather, dumping intense snow or fog in very localized zones, while nearby areas stay relatively unaffected. That means one town can be buried in snow, while another just miles away sees almost none. It's not a uniform system, it's unpredictable, and it changes faster than most people expect. 26. Some of the clearest water doesn't come from lakes. Not all of Wisconsin's cleanest water sits in open lakes. Some of it rises straight from the ground. Natural springs push water up through layers of limestone and sandstone, filtering it the entire way. But here's the shocking part. Some of these springs produce thousands of gallons of water per minute, continuously. And the clarity can be so extreme. You can see straight through several feet of water with almost no distortion. In certain areas, the water even appears bright blue, not because of depth, but because of how light interacts with minerals suspended in it. And no matter the season, many of these springs stay unfrozen in winter, surrounded by ice and snow, flowing water in freezing temperatures, as if the ground itself refuses to stop. 25. Long ridges cut across the land like natural barriers. In some parts of Wisconsin, the land doesn't roll. It slices. Long, narrow ridges stretch across the terrain, formed by ancient geological pressure. But here's what makes them more extreme. Some of these ridges rise sharply enough to block wind patterns, redirect water flow, and isolate ecosystems on either side, which means conditions can change dramatically, just by crossing one ridge. And in certain areas, these formations expose rock that is over 1 billion years old, some of the oldest visible geological material in the entire region, a landscape shaped not just by surface forces, but by deep, ancient pressure from beneath the earth. 24. Entire regions are built on controlled wetlands. In central Wisconsin, the land flattens into something unusual: cranberry bogs. But these aren't just farms. They're built on naturally acidic wetlands that already existed. And here's the shocking part. During harvest season, entire fields are intentionally flooded, turning acres of land into temporary lakes. Machines move through the water, cranberries float to the surface, and the entire landscape transforms. From above, it looks geometric, perfect grids filled with water. But underneath that control is a fragile system. These bogs depend on precise water levels, acidity, and soil conditions. If any of those shift too far, the entire system can fail. It's a landscape that looks engineered, but is completely dependent on natural conditions staying perfectly balanced. 23. Some lakes are clear enough to feel unreal. In northern Wisconsin, some lakes don't look normal. They look too clear. Formed by glaciers and surrounded by forest, these lakes stay cold, deep, and naturally filtered. But here's the unsettling part. In certain lakes, visibility can extend 20 feet or more below the surface. You're not just looking at water. You're looking through it. Rocks, drop-offs, movement below, and because of that clarity, depth becomes deceptive. Water that looks shallow can suddenly drop off into darkness. People underestimate it, and that's where it becomes dangerous, because what you see isn't always what's there. 22. Some valleys quietly amplify the wind. Certain valleys in Wisconsin don't just guide rivers, they trap and accelerate air. Narrow river corridors act like natural funnels. Wind enters, compresses, speeds up, but here's what makes it more intense. In some locations, wind speeds inside these valleys can be noticeably stronger than surrounding areas, even when conditions seem calm elsewhere. Which means you can step into one of these areas and feel a sudden shift, air moving faster, temperature dropping quicker, sound carrying differently. It's subtle, but disorienting. The land isn't just shaping what you see, it's altering what you feel. 21. Water is closer to the surface than you think. In many parts of Wisconsin, groundwater sits just below your feet, sometimes only a few feet down. But here's the part most people don't realize. That water pressure can build. And in certain conditions, digging into the ground can cause water to rise quickly or flood into the space, which is why in some areas basements are difficult or risky to build. The land isn't dry, it's saturated, constantly, and that means the surface you're standing on is only a thin layer above a much larger water system, always present, always pushing upward. 20. Entire forests change almost instantly. Drive through Wisconsin long enough, and something feels off. The forest changes, not gradually, instantly. One moment, you're surrounded by dense pine, dark, tight, almost enclosing. Then within minutes, it opens up. Broadleaf trees take over, light floods in, the entire atmosphere shifts. But here's the shocking part. This transition can happen so quickly that entire ecosystems flip within just a few miles. Different soil, different moisture, different wildlife. It's not a blend, it's a boundary, an invisible line where two completely different environments collide. And neither fully takes over. 19. One shoreline controls the air around it. Lake Michigan doesn't just sit there, it controls the environment around it. Stand near the shoreline and everything changes. Air softens, temperatures stabilize, humidity rises. But here's where it gets more intense. Move just 15 to 20 miles inland and that effect disappears. Completely. Temperatures can shift rapidly. Air dries out, conditions become more extreme, and during certain times of year, the lake can generate dense fog banks that roll inland suddenly, reducing visibility with almost no warning. One moment clear, the next, completely obscured. It's not gradual, it's immediate, like stepping into a different atmospheric system. 18. Some parts of Wisconsin feel almost empty. Wisconsin isn't supposed to feel dry, but in certain areas, it does. Sand barrens stretch across parts of the state, loose, nutrient-poor soil left behind by glaciers. But here's what makes it more extreme. Water drains so quickly that many plants simply can't survive there, which creates something unusual. Open, exposed land surrounded by dense forest, sparse vegetation, low growth, wide, quiet space, and standing there, it feels stripped down, almost silent, like the land is unfinished, a place where conditions exist, but life struggles to fully take hold. 17. Some streams move faster than they should. In southwestern Wisconsin, the land doesn't behave like the Midwest. It drops. Not dramatically, but enough to change everything. Streams don't just flow here, they accelerate, cutting through narrow valleys, turning sharply, carving deeper over time. But here's the unsettling part. These streams have gradients steep enough to erode land faster than typical Midwestern waterways, reshaping the terrain continuously. And because this is the driftless area, there are no glacial deposits slowing them down, no smoothing, just water moving freely, carving tighter, deeper, faster. It feels controlled, but it isn't. It's active. 16. A massive rock structure runs through the state, mostly hidden. There's a geological feature stretching through Wisconsin that most people never see: the Niagara Escarpment, a long ridge of limestone cutting through multiple regions. But here's what makes it more intense. In some places, it rises into cliffs. In others, it disappears beneath the surface entirely. Still there, but invisible, and it quietly controls everything around it: water movement, soil formation, plant growth. In certain areas, it even creates microclimates where specific species can survive that can't exist just miles away. A structure running through the land, sometimes exposed, sometimes buried, always shaping what happens above it. 15. The western border is constantly changing. On a map, Wisconsin's western edge looks clean, defined, but in reality, it isn't. The Mississippi River forms that border, and the river doesn't stay still. But here's the shocking part. Over time, the river has shifted channels, created new islands, and altered sections of the boundary itself, which means the edge of the state has never been completely fixed. It moves, splitting into channels, flooding into backwaters, reshaping land with every cycle. From above, it doesn't look stable. It looks like something constantly rearranging itself, a border that exists, but never fully settles. 14. An entire region sits on shifting ground. In central Wisconsin, the surface doesn't tell the full story, because beneath it, there's sand, deep layers of it, left behind by massive glacial melt. But here's what makes it more extreme. Water moves through this region faster than most places in the Midwest, straight down, through the sand, into a massive aquifer system below, which means the ground above can feel stable, while underneath, water is constantly shifting. And in some areas, this has led to noticeable drops in water levels when usage increases, exposing how sensitive the system really is. A landscape that looks still, but is always adjusting beneath the surface. 13. There's a visible line where glaciers stopped. There's a boundary running across Wisconsin that most people never notice. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. The Ice Age Trail follows the exact edge of where glaciers reached, and where they didn't. But here's what makes it more intense. On one side, the land is flattened, smoothed, reshaped by ice. On the other, it's rough, elevated, untouched. Two completely different terrains, separated by a line you can literally walk across. And that contrast is so sharp in places. It feels like stepping between two different geological worlds. 12. Massive bays are quietly reshaping the state. Wisconsin doesn't just have open water. It has massive bay systems: Green Bay, Chequamegon Bay. But these aren't passive. They collect. Water flows in, sediment settles, nutrients build up. But here's the unsettling part. Over time, these processes can change shorelines, alter water depth, and slowly reshape the edges of the land itself. It's not dramatic. It's slow, but constant. A gradual shift that never really stops. And over decades, even small changes begin to add up. 11. The ground is filled with hidden collapses. In parts of Wisconsin, the land looks stable, but it isn't. Scattered across certain regions are hundreds, sometimes thousands of depressions, some filled with water, others dry, all irregular. But here's the unsettling part. These weren't carved from above. They formed when massive chunks of buried glacier ice melted, leaving empty space underneath. And when the surface gave way, it collapsed, creating sudden drops in the terrain, some shallow, some deeper than expected. From above, it looks random. From the ground, it feels unpredictable, like the surface has already failed, in places you can't always see. 10. Some forests grow on land that shouldn't support them. In northern Wisconsin, you'll find pine forests stretching across large areas, but the ground beneath them isn't normal soil. It's sand, loose, dry, nutrient-poor. But here's what makes it more extreme. Water drains so quickly that most plant life struggles to survive. Yet these forests still exist, adapted, spread thin, spaced out, sunlight cutting straight through. And in some areas, the ground heats up faster than surrounding land, creating conditions that feel almost out of place for the region. A forest growing on terrain that barely supports it. 9. The state is saturated with freshwater. At some point, it becomes impossible to ignore. Wisconsin is filled with water, thousands of lakes, rivers in every direction, wetlands connecting everything. But here's the shocking part. In some northern regions, lakes are so dense, they cover entire sections of the map like scattered glass. And during winter, many of them freeze thick enough to support vehicles, structures, and entire temporary communities on the ice. Fishing huts line the surface. People move across frozen water like it's land, a landscape that shifts completely with the seasons, from liquid to solid, and back again. 8. The ground beneath Wisconsin doesn't match itself. Wisconsin isn't built on one type of rock, it's built on many. Sandstone cliffs, basalt formations, dolomite layers, quartzite ridges, all formed at different times under completely different conditions. But here's the shocking part. Some of this rock dates back over 1 billion years, while other layers formed much more recently, which means the ground beneath your feet isn't uniform. It's stacked, different eras, compressed together. And that creates something unusual, landscapes that change abruptly. One area looks smooth, another looks fractured, another rises sharply from nowhere. It's not one story, it's multiple geological timelines, colliding in one place. 7. Giant dunes rise where they shouldn't. You don't expect to see massive dunes in Wisconsin, but along Lake Michigan, they're there. Large ridges of sand rising from the shoreline, shaped by wind and constant wave action. But here's what makes it more extreme. These dunes don't stay still. They shift, grain by grain, slowly moving over time. And in certain areas, dunes can bury vegetation or reshape sections of the shoreline entirely. What makes this even stranger is that this is happening next to a freshwater lake, not an ocean, a system that behaves like a coastline, without being one. 6. The wetlands aren't separate, they're connected. Wisconsin's wetlands don't exist in isolation, they connect. Marshes flow into swamps, swamps feed into rivers, rivers lead into lakes. But here's the unsettling part. This means changes in one area can ripple through the entire system. Water levels shift, sediment moves, ecosystems adjust. And because these systems are linked, disruption doesn't stay contained. It spreads, quietly, across regions, a network that looks scattered on the surface, but underneath behaves like a single connected system. 5. The entire state is broken into invisible zones. Wisconsin doesn't operate as one environment. It's divided, not by borders you can see, but by conditions. Moisture shifts, soil changes, elevation rises and falls, and within short distances, everything flips. But here's what makes it more intense. These microenvironments can be so specific that certain species survive in one small area and completely disappear just miles away. It's not gradual, it's fragmented. Like the state was split into dozens of overlapping systems, all running at the same time. 4. The Great Lakes don't just influence weather, they control it. Lake Michigan and Lake Superior don't just affect Wisconsin's climate, they dominate it. They store heat, release moisture, redirect wind. But here's the shocking part. They can create localized weather systems that don't exist anywhere else nearby. Lake effect snow can drop massive amounts in one area, while nearby regions stay almost untouched. Fog can roll in suddenly, reducing visibility to near zero in minutes. Temperatures can shift dramatically just by moving closer or farther from the water. It's not passive influence, it's control. 3. The center of the state hides in plain sight. Most states have a clear, obvious center, flat, open, easy to identify. Wisconsin doesn't. Its geographic center sits in a forested region, quiet, uneven, almost hidden. But here's what makes it more meaningful. That center reflects the state itself. Layered terrain, mixed ecosystems, water moving through everything, not exposed, not obvious, just quietly existing in the middle of it all. Like the complexity of the state, condensed into one place. 2. The entire state leans, and everything follows it. Wisconsin isn't flat, it tilts, higher in the north, lower in the south, but here's what makes that more powerful. That subtle slope controls everything. Water flow, soil distribution, wetland formation, even how ecosystems spread. It's a slow, invisible force, but over time it determines where water collects, where land stays dry, where life thrives. You don't see it, but it's always shaping what happens. 1. Wisconsin is where multiple geological worlds collide. Wisconsin shouldn't look like this, but it does. Glaciated plains, untouched driftless terrain, sandy outwash regions, ancient rock formations, wetland systems, all overlapping. But here's the most important part. These aren't spread out over massive distances. They're compressed, layered tightly together, which means the landscape doesn't follow one pattern. It keeps changing, from smooth to rugged, wet to dry, open to dense, sometimes within miles. It's not a single environment. It's a collision point where different geological forces met and never fully blended. And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. Because Wisconsin isn't just a state. It's a map of competing forces. Water against land, ice against time, stability against constant change. And if this much complexity exists in one place, what does the rest of the country actually look like? Let's keep fun going. Check out the next video on your screen. Be sure to leave a comment. Please like and subscribe.